Hi, this is Sherry, and here I am again with the Bernina Artista 730 and working on the Mastering Your Bernina workbook. And today I want to go over the Satin Stitch. To be honest with you, it's not a stitch I really use very often, not super familiar with it, but I did a test run and I'm feeling like I could do that again with you all. I read the instructions and it has you use bobbin weight thread and your gold latch bobbin case, which I have here. And if you look at it, you will see the latch is gold versus the bobbin case where the latch is the same color as the, well, everything's the same color. This gold latch bobbin case, you have the latch is gold, and you have a noticeable difference here. You have this pigtail, which I have it threaded. So you thread it just like a normal bobbin case, but then you take your thread and you go through the pigtail. Okay, kind of wind it through and go through the pigtail. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it in my machine. So this is a lighter weight thread. So that is one thing I wanted to say. This is this bobbin thread. You can get this. This is made by Sulky, and it actually says bobbin on there. And it is a 60 weight thread. So it's much lighter than the 30 weight thread I'm going to use for the Satin Stitch. So what it's going to do is, and because there's more tension in this pigtail, it's going to pull some of the top stitching, some of this green thread to the back. So you're not going to get the bobbin thread coming to the top. That is if the tension is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and load it in my bobbin case, and I'm going to load the bobbin case in the machine, and when you hear it click, you're in. And I have the top thread already threaded, so I'm going to bring up the bobbin thread, and here we go. Got the bobbin thread up. It makes a little loop, and there we go. We'll close the door and we'll put the machine back down in the cabinet, and we'll get to work on the Satin Stitch. Like I said, I don't typically do the Satin Stitch. It's not really a stitch that I'm real comfortable with. Let me bring this down a little more. I think we're good. So I'm basically following the book. Doesn't seem like maybe I need to come down just a little. There we go. Okay, so it says select this zigzag stitch, which is number 2. You see I have that selected, and then it says to change the stitch length to Satin Stitch and the stitch width to the widest possible. This is a 9mm machine. You can do a 9, like pretty much a 9mm. The widest it'll let you go is, well, it'll let you go to 9, but that makes me nervous. So let me just hand wheel it to make sure my needle, okay, we're gonna do 8.9. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I'm using the foot number 20 for this. And here I've got the stitch length. I've got it to 0.5. I couldn't really find out what exactly makes a satin stitch, but when I went lower than 0.5, it was like we weren't moving, and it was like the stitches were right on top of each other. So I did like the look of 0.5. I mean, I guess with the Satin Stitch, it's up to you how tight you want it, but so we'll go ahead and get started. And one thing I noticed with satin stitching is that, oh wow, we're moving really slow. And it says in the book to start dialing down your width. So now you can see I've got it down to 8.2. Now, and basically dial it down. And keep dialing it down until you get, you know, to nothing. And you can see how the stitches change. Okay. And now let's dial it up. And the problem with this is I'm not a machine, so my satin stitch doesn't look perfectly symmetrical. And maybe, you know, if I did this enough and practiced, I would get to the point where it did look symmetrical. But mine doesn't really look symmetrical. And they do have you use the 20 foot, and it's like an open toe embroidery foot. I do have this fabric stabilized with tearaway in the middle, and I would recommend that. Gosh, and here I am up to 9. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop. And here you can see the satin stitching. I think it looks pretty good. I did, you know, right here a little thin. Maybe I could have went to 0.4, but I'm pretty happy with it. I did use a variegated thread. This is made by Sulky. It is a 30 weight. Per the book, it wanted you to use a 30 weight thread, which I didn't even know I had 30 weight thread, but I do. So there you go. That's the satin stitch. I'm gonna let you go a little bit further in the book and do the other 2 examples, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to show you. There's your satin stitch. To go to the satin stitch that they mention in the book, they mention stitch number 354, which if you toggle it down, here's your 1354. There's your satin stitch that's set by the machine, and I can do a quick little example of it real quick, because I wasn't crazy about it, but and you're gonna see why. It's basically not hardly moving. So their satin stitch, and I'll even bring this out. Their satin stitch, I would say, is the you know, Bernina's definition of a satin stitch is probably like 0.25, 0.3. So it's very tight. So be prepared, you know, for your fabric to move very slowly through there. And you can see the bobbin thread, the white bobbin thread in the back. And what you're supposed to see is your top thread on either side of the bobbin thread pulling to the back. So I think we got the tension pretty good. I didn't see any bobbin thread pulling through to the front. So there you go. There's your satin stitch. Hope you have a good one. Thank you.